listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. Good morning, everybody. As we're making our way through this week, with it being the first day of April, and beautiful morning that it is after the rain we had yesterday, and moving right along with the show here, AM Ocala Live. As promised, we have from On Top of the World, Robert Colen, and in the studio, Robert Colen and Jim Walkup, to talk a little bit, little side notes of stepping away from COVID-19 for a little bit and talking a little bit about something else. Good morning, gentlemen. Glad to have you with us.
Good morning. Happy to be here, Adam. Thank you. I'm glad you brought Jim with me. Jim runs all of our basically commercial and development of our new property that's between 60th and Southwest 60th and Southwest 80th Avenue off 38th Street. So if you know like where the airport is and where Westport High School is across the street from that whole swath of land where we have a lot of development underway. And, you know, eventually and hopefully very soon this COVID-19 will pass.
Right.
And eventually we'll move back to a normal life. But in the meantime, we're still moving forward with what we're doing because this will pass.
Yeah.
So I brought Jim in here because it's a great way of just talking about something that's interesting and new for the community. Mm-hmm. And Jim he has so much knowledge and he's such smart and he's great to talk with. But he really has a lot of in-depth information of what's going on. So people who are interested, like in the swimming pool that we're building, the swimming facility. You know, the Marlins, where the Marlins swim for our swim team and all the high schools swim at the CF, that's going to be closing down soon.
Right.
And we're in the process of building a new swimming pool there. So I brought Jim in because he really has all the up-to-date information on what's going on with that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So like we said, I was telling the listeners out there to stay tuned because we'll be discussing those new developments of the swimming facility and such. So I'll leave it to you to talk a little bit about what's going on with it.
Okay. Well, I'll start off with the facility itself. What we're doing is building an aquatic center, basically a 55 to 58,000 square foot facility.
Wow.
It's going to have two 50-meter pools, one of which is indoor, one of which is outdoor. The outdoor pool actually has a 6-lane warm-up, 25-yard kind of a warm-up pool adjacent and attached to it.
Yeah.
So it's in a bit of an L shape. So one will run in the east-west direction, that's in the interior pool, and then the exterior pool will run in the north-south direction. So it'll be one of the few facilities on the southeast or in the southeast that actually has two 50-meter pools for training purposes. And in addition to that, it is adjacent to the Colen development, so there's going to be a water splash pad for children. So parents who bring their student athletes in or kids in to learn how to swim will be able to let the little ones play around on the splash pad and be entertained. So they're not sitting in the stands driving the parents crazy while they're watching their kids learn how to swim.
That's right. Yeah.
But the interior, the facility will be a 2-story area where the spectators can view from basically a second floor level or from stands at the first floor level adjacent to the pool. That pool will be 3 meters deep on the shallow end. Minimum of 13 feet deep on the deep end.
So think about that 3 meters deep on the shallow end.
Yeah, that's
well, and there's a real reason for that.
The reason for that is back in 2000 in Beijing, the pool they had there was the 3 meter deep on the shallow end and whatever the depth was for high dives on the deep end. But the competition pool they built, being 3 meters on the shallow end, the hydraulics between each swimmer was less. It affected the adjacent swimmer less, and they had better swim times and broke more records in that pool than in any pool design sense. So
that's interesting.
The thought and idea is to mimic a similar design, and instead of doing the standard of 2 meter deep on 50-meter pools, which is kind of the norm in a lot of facilities across the nation, we're going 3 meters.
That's kind of fascinating because that's a drag ratio there. We're almost talking about, like when I think about my aviation side of it, that's like a wake turbulence that you would get from another aircraft landing that you could feel. You're talking about that another swimmer who's on the outside would feel that turbulence from all the other swimmers on the inside.
Absolutely. There's definitely some
The
science
deeper it is, it kind of lets it dissipate. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Interesting.
There's some science to the hydraulics and how it works, and so there's some benefit to designing it around a pool that proved itself to be that competitively good for swimmers. So we're going to do the same thing on the interior of the building.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the exterior of the building, we're looking at a different pool manufacture and design. similar to what's being used now in the Olympic trials.
Okay.
Which I know have been postponed a year. So it looks like that's going to get pushed back. But it's a Murtha type pool, or is a Murtha pool. That's what we're looking into at the moment.
What's a Murtha pool?
Yeah.
Murtha pool is it's a panelized system. It sits on a slab, and it's braced kind of like a wall, not a cast in place concrete wall, but it bears on a foundation with what's called. Forget the name of exactly what you call them, but it's basically a brace that goes from the foundation to the wall to support it, like
Yeah.
a flying buttress
Okay.
type scenario. And then it uses a PVC liner and sealing system that they've developed over the last 20 years. It's a very smooth interior pool, different than the concrete. So for children learning how to swim, it's easier on their feet.
Yeah.
They actually have a impact barrier they can put in the bottom that's about an inch thick that gives it a softer cushion.
Oh, wow.
So that if a child were to dive in when they're not supposed to dive in and strike the bottom of the pool, it would be cushioned. It wouldn't necessarily be
Yeah.
like a concrete.
That's on the 3 meter pool?
on the
That's-
on the 2 meter pool.
Okay.
The exterior pool is going to be your 50 by 25 yard L-shaped pool, but the deep end is 2 meters on that one, which is 6.7 feet on that northern
Okay.
half, and then the southern half will be at 4 foot because they're going to do aerobics and teaching children how to swim. All the swim lessons and other types of events in the program will be taking place in that south end.
It's kind of what you described with that meta pool is like that's the state of the art. That's
It is definitely
Creme de la creme.
a really interesting pool. I went to Jacksonville to see one of their facilities that
Yeah.
they're building there. They had a small training pool, teaching pool that they're putting in addition to an Olympic-sized pool. And it's a very interesting system to see it go in. It's a different type of pool than a lot of people have seen.
Yeah.
But it's pretty impressive.
yeah, that's
So
awesome.
you talked about the second floor inside. How are they going to access that? I know that I've had people ask me about the seating areas and how is that going to work?
Well, there'll be 3 main stairways when you come into the entrance of the facility. On the south side, you'll go through possibly 3 main stairwells that'll lead up to a second floor viewing area that is basically a rows and rows of stands. The first 2 or 3 rows will be seats with backs. The rest of the stands right now we're looking at will have backs to them, but they'll be more the traditional stadium seats. And those, I'll call them stairwells, basically lead to for entrance and exit onto that area. And then for people within the main swimming area, if they want to, we'll have like telescoping bleachers.
Yeah, like in a
adjacent
high
to the
school
pool,
gym kind
like
of
you'd have
thing.
in a high school gym. And
Okay.
we'd have those along the south wall and north wall, either side of the 50 meter, along the length of the pool.
oh, wow.
So, and I guess the first question I want is, what's the time frame for starting construction and when will we see it finished?
Well, right now we're into the design of the job. We're expecting to get 60% drawings through the drawing development due. They're originally end of the month or middle of the month, but we push that to the end of the month because the virus has everybody, even architectural design firms, working from home. And
Yeah.
of course, that lack of efficiency and not being in an office is,
It's hard to
I'm sure,
even
going to
talk
affect
with each other, I imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're doing everything on GoToMeeting or conference calls. So, there's some efficiency loss there that's going to affect every project that's being designed now or every project under construction right now. So we're having to adjust for that and what's going on nationwide with the virus. But those schedules are, for the most part, we're holding to them within a couple of weeks. And our hope is that by September, end of August, September, we'll have the design completed to the point that we can proceed with permitting.
Okay.
And so if we can get the permit in September, applied for, have it issued sometime October, November, and bid the job during that time period, we're hoping that we can build the facility, September, October start and have it done in November or December of '21.
Wow.
Okay.
So it'll be a good 12, 14-month job. process at least.
That's amazing. And then the inside part, where we're talking about the inside of the pool, you go to some places where it's a lot of swimming and there's a lot of chlorine in there, and you're like, oh, this is kind of discomforting to anybody sitting in there. What are we doing to mitigate that?
Well, air quality is a big concern, and our designers are making adjustments to be able to deal with it. But we have 3 major units that are identified just to air condition and bring in good, clean air for that space for competitions, because we don't want the student athletes obviously getting ill or having any chlorine residue left in the facility. We've also got a chlorine evacuation system that's being designed at the pool level. And were there to be any issues with either one of those not meeting the needs of the air quality, there are other fallback methods that we're putting power and other things in place to be able to deal with were it to come about. But we've looked into several facilities, one in particular that was up in Canada designed, where the air quality was improved by 3 times the minimum requirement. Now, I don't think we're going to go quite to that extreme, but we're very conscious of wanting to have the air quality be as good as we can, because that's been a big complaint over a lot of facilities in Florida that they go down to, and the student athletes are swimming and competing, and immediately when they get out of the pool and they're done, they're almost getting ill. Because the chlorine smell is so overwhelming.
But see, the chlorine guys would keep the coronavirus away.
it's catch-22, if you will, right?
So,
yeah.
But so you're looking at possibly a year and a half from now, beginning of 2022, right?
Well, our goal is to have it done in hopes of November, December completion of 21.
Okay.
Right now, we have an agreement with CFCC to lease the pool through that period, and after December of 21, when you go into January and February 22, it goes on a month-by-month lease. So we're trying to get it done by the original agreement and deadline, so that we don't have to go to the month-to-month. But we do have that option for up to 6 months afterwards if the project, for whatever reason, doesn't.
And one of the neat things is right here in Marion County, we're going to have basically one of the state-of-the-art, best swimming facilities in the entire southeast region of the United States, where you would say, right? I mean, it'd be equivalent maybe to what the Long Center is, but much more modern and sophisticated than what the Long Center is in Clearwater. We're going to have something really amazing to have and to showcase in this county.
Right.
And it'll be right there in Colen, which is a neighborhood that we're going to be developing. So if you are a swimming family, you want to build a house right next to the pool where your kids are, that's a great place.
Absolutely.
But and this will be open to the public as well. I mean, it's not just the swim team and it's not just big swim events. Who's going to be able to use this pool?
It will be open to the public. The general public will be able to come up, sign up for swim lessons, or get on the local swim teams. Practice, use the facilities during off event times. I mean, obviously some of the events will be taking place with the different teams on Fridays or weekends, however they schedule them. But during the off times, during the middle of the day, it'll be open to the general public so that anybody can come in and use the facilities however they need to, either for children to come in and learn how to swim, or to play on the play, pad that we're going to have there.
Yeah.
Lounge around. There'll be other amenities to it. There's going to be a small fitness center in there that really is going to key around equipment and training of swimming athletes.
Yeah.
And so if anybody's, into swimming as a means of staying into shape, the facility will be geared around meeting those needs.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is, trying to find always silver linings or positive through the adaptation of everything we're dealing with the pandemic. We mentioned that the Olympics are going to be moved from this year to the 2021, but in a way, with the expectations of when you guys could have the facility finished, that almost it kind of lines up to maybe feel a little bit more advantageous or exciting, knowing that in the summer they'll see the competition of the Olympics and the swimming and everything that's done with the events, that they'll know that only a few months away right here in our county that'll be completed, and they'll have the opportunity to do that too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of interesting, trying to look at the brighter side of having the Olympics, which I think a lot of people look forward to this year. We're looking forward to it this year with everything that was canceled with sports, at least thinking that was going to come to fruition. But now that it's not, it's pushed back another year, and it's like, okay, whatever. But But actually, we can look on that side. Well, that might be good for you guys in lieu of it, in the summertime. And like I said, having people watching it and then getting exciting that knowing
It's like
right
the
in the
Rocky
county.
Balboa effect, right?
Yeah.
Everybody saw Rocky and they ran out and became boxers.
They don't have to became boxers, or at least bought a bag, right?
Well, and the
Some
other part of
Oh,
gloves.
that is the
Throwback to the 70s comment. Yeah.
the exterior pool that we're talking about is currently being used, or was going to be used, for the clinical trials up in Omaha.
Oh, is that right?
So
Yeah.
that 50-meter pool was one we're talking to the manufacturer about repurposing for this facility. The benefit to that being, if we have the concrete, your typical cast-in-place concrete 50-meter pool inside, which is similar to a lot of facilities, and you have the actual Murtha competition pool that they use for clinical or for the Olympic trials. There's athletes that come for both reasons, for both pools. Some of them like the standard concrete pool scenario of training, and then others want to actually train and practice in a competition type pool.
Right.
And so there's a lot of excitement around the repurposing process of using that for athletes that say, or people that specifically go to those facilities because they have those pools.
Well, you were just talking about athletes traveling to come. The people.
Yes.
I mean, we're likely to see colleges bring their students here in the summer. We're likely to see international athletes. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. The more we've delved into the program needs, the more we've really found out how that works. We've been fortunate that Greg Troy with the University of Florida has come down and reviewed our program and kind of given us some advice on what he thought we should incorporate into that program. But one of the things that he discussed with us specifically was that a lot of colleges and even international schools or competitive teams have a desire to send their students to or their athletes to a place where they can train in a turnkey scenario, where you have housing that's directly adjacent to the facility. You have an indoor pool, you have an outdoor pool. They have the option of training in either one, and everything's right there on one campus.
Right.
And so the idea of having housing facilities and training facilities all right there at the Aquatic Center is appealing, especially to international athletes that want to come over and train those teams, in one location as a group.
Yeah, and man, like you said, Robert, this speaks volumes of what we could have right here in the community with those expectations.
Yeah.
And aside from that, with the World Equestrian Center here, we could have an epicenter for worldly swimming and worldly horsing.
That's right.
Equestrian, I guess. Horsing
around. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
none of that
that's
around
phenomenal.
the pool. That's
Yeah, no, that's some great stuff there. And like you said, when you mentioned for the timeline of, like we know everything kind of being drawn out just a little bit now as a lot of people working from home, but like you said, hoping to have permits and everything to maybe start breaking ground on that this fall.
It is. I think all of our jobs over there on the commercial side with the Colessa development are hopefully going to start in that fall timeline.
Yeah.
There's several projects that we're working on. Of course, the Aquatic Center is one of the most exciting ones for the community and for the prospects of what it's going to bring to the local Ocala area. So we're definitely staying on task and continuing to push with the development of the project, and the design team is doing a very good job of keeping up with that, even with everything we're overcoming with the illnesses.
And right next to the pool is the Ina A. Colen Academy, which we've talked about before, which is a charter school that we're in the process of building. We're going to be meeting in front of the school board here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to talk about kind of where we are with the progress of the academy.
Well, we just finished up the schematic layout of the academy, the basic general plan of how it's going to come together. We're working on the phasing because we're going to develop that campus in 2 phases. We are working on the civil right now, kind of designing the roadway, the drop-off, the staging area for parents to drop their children off or pick them up. And that process is almost about a month or maybe 2 behind the Aquatic Center in development.
Yeah.
But we've got the program a little bit better pinned down, and we've got some school consultants we're working on to get our charter approved and to help incorporate their thoughts of our program needs into a final plan. And that one is fast on track as well. We meet every 2 weeks on Monday, have a conference call or a go-to meeting from 2:30 to 4 on our Aquatic Center, and then from 4 to 5 on our charter school. So we're moving fast and trying to keep both of those on task for a fall completion, both of which would be permitted, this fall, this year. And the school, the hope is that if we get it under permit, September, October, would finish and be open in time for the fall of 22.
22.
So
okay.
that one's going to take, obviously, a little more time to bid, to build, and to have up and ready for that fall start, 22. But
What are the expectations of grades for the
that
students?
will be a kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
The expectation of grades will be A's. I mean, everybody,
Yeah.
when
Right.
you expect it to get
A's,
work
yeah.
hard.
But it'll be a kindergarten through 8th grade, elementary, middle school.
Yeah, it'll
And-
start off K through 6, though.
Correct, and
Okay.
it'll be phased. We'll open it in the next year, and the next year,
Right.
as the school grows, we'll expand it in phases.
Yeah.
So if you've got a child or a grandchild who's going to be starting school or be in elementary school or even starting 6th grade by 2022, this is something you're going to want to think about, because it's really going to be an elite level school that we're looking at the best ways of teaching and really
Yeah.
bringing kids together and pushing them forward. And it's going to be something very special that we're going to be really proud of. And it's going to be right there next to the swimming pool facility. Well, not right next to it, but a football field and a half away or so.
That's about
Yeah.
right. A couple hundred yards, parking lot of distance,
Yeah.
from one from the other.
So something really exciting that's going to be coming right here. And again, it's going to be between Southwest 60th Avenue and Southwest 80th Avenue on off of 38th Street, across from the airport, across from the Westport High School.
And
So
like
something-
you mentioned with the idea of the elaborate facility that'll be new for the charter school. Along with that comes probably, like you said, the proud idea of new ideas and certain ideas brought to fruition on a better way to teach children and adapt with the changing times. I think that's one thing that people bring up is, all this technological advance and everything, but yet a classroom is as dated as it was 75 years ago. So
Well,
with
and
these ideas.
that's going to be very different in this charter
Yeah.
school.
That's awesome.
We're taking a hard look at expanding the classrooms and making them a little larger than they might otherwise be for a traditional classroom.
Yeah.
It's going to allow for the social aspects of learning to be incorporated into the classroom in a group learning type atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a different type of charter school that's looking, there's a specific vision for what they're wanting to create, and our designers have done this in several other school areas, develop this type of program, and so again, it's going to be a very neat thing to bring to the community.
Excellent. Well, that brings us to the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim, appreciate it. A lot of good information
Appreciate you
there for
having
everybody to
me.
look forward to. Robert, pleasure as always.
Great seeing you again, Adam.
You got it. As we make our way here towards the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, WOCA Ocala will be back right after this.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Deaths from coronavirus have passed 4,000 in the United States, and President Trump says,
We're going to go through a very tough 2 weeks. As the experts are predicting, as I think a lot of us are predicting after having studied it so hard, you're going to start seeing some real